Rasul. My error is.
And it's, I also probably like this sit. German is very difficult.
Yeah.
And this is
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Rasul. And do you prefer Nilufar or Nilufar? Okay. Nilufar.
Okay. Did you already talk about Tasha's potential participation in the audience?
Not yet.
Okay.
We have a Ukrainian activist that is like joining the workshop, but not like as a. She's not here as a speaker, but she might be giving an input for the open discussion. So she'll be here as an active spectator.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, if she wants, because I told her yesterday 11 p.m. and she's preparing her own speech for the afternoon.
Yes, this is what I said yesterday exactly. That we don't have time pressure. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm disturbing you for the fifth time.
No worries.
There's what you talked about.
Actually,
the
like,
Nazis
there
are
will,
quite
after the
good,
break, there will
and
be
the others not so good.
question,
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
solidarity movements and Eurocentrism.
We might
like this. And I think
ask
this
the
is
people
where
to-
I will say
to sit
it happens also in
differently.
Ukraine with Western Europe and like this. And, at least at that point, we will bring those topics together. It would be that the audience does it before.
I was thinking after doing some overviews about Iran, maybe even this is just a suggestion, even easily jumping on that question, how that one has more potentials to talk about, and for example, if there is some information here that we can go through that, because I was just looking to the second question, the importance of the women's movement on the ground, on the ground of Iran. What is why it is important? Is the second question the importance of women's movement on the ground?
Yes, just the second question is
The second question is the meaning of the feminist movement in Iran.
In Iran.
Yeah.
I will announce like the translation. Yeah, we will not start, but I will say something about the translation. Yeah, and then next to Eurocentrism, maybe also will like ask the question or give the input that a lot of the left has a strange like understanding of imperialism, like that everything was yeah. Or that for some reason Bashar al-Assad or the mullahs are good about this bullshit. That there are people who name themselves communists and are supporting this regime, more than because like supporting everything what is against the Americans.
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
So that's you have the theory that there's only one imperialism, and that's Washington, and like the Western Bloc.
Okay, then in that sense, I can just easily forget also the Islamic regime is also based on killing people just to be against.
You see the person with the notebook and the white mask and the glasses there on the back, that's Tasha. Hallo zusammen, wir starten noch nicht gleich, aber ich sage schon mal kurz was für eine Übersetzung. Der Workshop wird auf Englisch und Deutsch stattfinden, und wenn ihr eine Übersetzung benötigt, beispielsweise auch ins Französische, könnt ihr da hinten einen Übersetzungskopfhörer abholen. This workshop will be held in German and English. Anyone who needs translation into German or to French, please get a translation device at the back there. Ce workshop, now my French. Ce workshop sera en allemand. Vous avez besoin d'une traduction anglais ou français, prenez un traducteur à la rivière, ou aurez besoin d'une carte d'identité et fiche de dépôt. Yes. We will start in some minutes. And it would be nice if we leave, if possible, the seats in front of the translation places clear, because then the translators will see us. You will find the information about the translation channel on the poster next to this flag there or there. Die Infos zu den Übersetzungskanälen Deutsch, Englisch, Französisch findet ihr da. Also das ist Kanal 2 Deutsch, Kanal 3 Französisch, Kanal 5 Englisch, Channel 2 German, Channel 3 French, Channel 5 English. Pour français, français c'est Canal 3.
Soll ich unseren Namen noch sagen? Oder willst du nicht? Ja. Soll ich für die Karte spielen?
So.
Wir würden nun langsam beginnen mit dem Workshop, und ich darf euch alle ganz herzlich begrüßen im Namen der Bewegung für den Sozialismus. Mein Name ist Bex, Pronomen Sie, das ist Nico, Pronomen er, und genau, wir begrüßen euch ganz herzlich zum Workshop der Aufstand im Iran und die internationale feministische Solidarität. Bevor wir in den Inhalt des Workshops einsteigen, würde ich sehr gerne unsere Referentin vorstellen. Und zwar sitzen wir hier mit Nilüfer Rasuli. Sie ist Historikerin und Journalistin und arbeitet von 2019 bis 2021 für die Teheraner Zeitung Etimantelien, wo sie vorwiegend über Frauen und soziale Ungleichheit schrieb. Seit 2021 arbeitet sie hier am Institut für Geschichte und Theorie, Geschichte und Theorie der Architektur an der ETH Zürich. Im Programm haben wir Mina Kani angekündigt, welche leider verhindert war, sowie Elisa Moros, die wegen einer Grippe leider auch kurzfristig absagen musste. Danke dir, Nilüfer, dass du so kurzfristig zugesagt hast.
und dass du mit uns hier bist. Die Proteste nach der Ermordung von Mahsa Amini rütteln an den Grundfesten des iranischen Regimes. Die Aufständischen fordern ein Ende der autoritären, fundamentalistischen Mullah-Herrschaft. Anders als in den vergangenen Jahren sind die aktuellen Proteste im kurdischen Teil des Landes ausgebrochen und verbreiteten sich im ganzen Land. Die Bewegung schafft es, unterschiedliche Teile der Gesellschaft zu mobilisieren. Und das herausragendste Merkmal der aktuellen Protestbewegung ist, dass sie von als Frauen unterdrückten Personen angeführt wird und feministische Forderungen einen zentralen Platz einnehmen. Feministische Aktivistinnen aus der ganzen Welt stellten sich von Beginn an hinter die Protestierenden. Gleichzeitig kommt es innerhalb der Solidaritätsbewegung, in Bezug auf die Solidarität mit dem ukrainischen Widerstand gegen den russischen Besatzungskrieg, auch zu Missmut und Meinungsverschiedenheiten. Sowohl in der Ukraine und anderen osteuropäischen Ländern als auch im Iran äußern sich feministische Aktivistinnen immer wieder enttäuscht darüber, dass ihr Widerstand gegen die jeweilige patriarchale Herrschaft zu wenig Beachtung und Unterstützung findet. Der Workshop thematisiert den iranischen Aufstand und die Frage der internationalen feministischen Solidarität. In den folgenden rund 2 Stunden wollen wir mit Nilüfer Rasuli erörtern, wie internationale feministische Solidarität zwischen diesen beiden brandaktuellen Konflikten einerseits hergestellt werden kann und wie sich die internationale feministische Solidaritätsbewegung in unserem Fall hier in der Schweiz oder ganz grundsätzlich in Europa, in Westeuropa, dazu verhält. Außerdem ist auch geplant, euch, das Publikum, an diversen Stellen mit einzubeziehen. Die Zusammenhänge auf Seiten der Unterdrücker sind ganz offensichtlich. Russland und Iran unterstützen sich gegenseitig militärisch. Die Schweiz fungiert weltweit als Rohstoffdrehscheibe. Das iranische Regime wird von der offiziellen Schweiz legitimiert und das nicht nur im Zuge des diplomatischen Dienstes. Am 14. Juni ist auch dieses Jahr ein großer feministischer Streik angedacht und im Rahmen davon würde es sich auch anbieten, diese internationale Solidarität praktisch werden zu lassen. Das heißt, indem in der Schweiz lebende ukrainische und iranische Feministinnen eingebunden werden und indem wir gemeinsam als Aktivistinnen zusammen die internationalen Dimensionen der patriarchalen, autoritären und rassistischen Unterdrückung und Ausbeutung aufzeigen und den globalen Kampf dagegen auch auf unseren Straßen sichtbar machen.
Ja genau, bevor wir jetzt dir das Wort geben und dann wirklich in den Inhalt der Workshops gehen, habe ich noch einige wenige organisatorische Hinweise. Auf dem Programm steht ja, dass das Ganze bis 13 Uhr geht. Wir werden auf jeden Fall jetzt eine gute Stunde machen und dann circa eine Viertelstunde Pause. Und es wird zwischendurch eine interaktive Sequenz geben, wo man natürlich auch selber entscheiden kann, ob man sich beteiligt oder nicht. Aber auf jeden Fall nebst dem auch am Schluss dann noch eine längere Zeit für Fragen und Anregungen. Bereits jetzt läuft eine Tonaufnahme, die wir später auf unserer Homepage sozialismus.ch stellen. Und wir sind hier auf YouTube momentan auf dem Livestream. Was wir nachher nicht veröffentlichen werden, ist die Diskussion ganz am Schluss, aber wir wollten trotzdem darauf hinweisen, damit das alle wissen, weil dann wisst ihr, wenn ihr euch nachher beteiligt, sind eure Statements nachher hier auch im Internet und wir wollen niemanden gefährden im Kontext vom Iran oder anderen Repressionskontexten. Ebenfalls wichtig ist, falls ihr euch nachher beteiligt, haben wir 2 Funkmikrofone, die wir rumgeben. Die sind auch wichtig, damit die Übersetzung funktioniert. Also bitte sprecht, wenn ihr ein Mikrofon habt. Genau, dann, falls ihr etwas spenden wollt, gibt es am Schluss die Möglichkeit, entweder mit Bargeld oder Twint etwas in die Kollekte zu werfen. Und es ist wichtig, dass das Ganze kostenlos ist, damit das alle auch selber entscheiden können und sich alle beteiligen können. Es ist allerdings auch so, dass die Organisation des Anderen Davos mit viel Geld verbunden ist für die Anreise von Referentinnen und Referenten, von anderen Workshops in diesem Fall jetzt, oder für die Saalmiete oder auch für die Infrastruktur der Übersetzung, die ihr hinten im Saal seht. Und ebenfalls könnt ihr uns unterstützen, indem ihr an der Soli-Party heute Abend ab 9 Uhr am Profitreff teilnehmt. Und bereits jetzt bedanke ich mich im Namen von uns allen hier vorne ganz herzlich bei den Übersetzerinnen für eure Arbeit. Und ebenfalls bedanken wir uns bei der Kinderbetreuung, die jetzt gerade in der Baracke auf dem Kanzleireal stattfindet. Also sollte jemand noch Bedarf haben, um ein Kind betreuen zu lassen, meldet euch doch draußen beim Büchertisch, die können euch sicher weiterhelfen.
Ich wechsle, ja, nein, ich war schon vorher auf Deutsch. Zu Beginn, Nilüfer, könntest du uns eine kurze Übersicht geben, um was geht es bei den revolutionären Ereignissen im Iran und Kurdistan? Wieso sind die Proteste ausgebrochen? Was wird auf den Straßen gefordert?
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for having me here. I will start talking about the Jina's revolution in Iran and Kurdistan in the name of Jina. This revolution started since Jina Mahsa Amini was murdered in Tehran on the 16th of September 2022. There are two factors behind why Jina's death made a very big protest, because Jina is not the first woman being murdered under the custody of morality police in Iran. The two factors behind that, the first and foremost is her Kurdish background and the radical history of Kurds in Iran, their bravery and the very true fact that Kurds will not stay silent, and they collectively, beautifully, radically act. The second fact behind this was that history of Iran is filled with a lot of blood of youth. So many names have been lost, so many people have been murdered, so many people have been executed, and nobody knows where their grave are. The difference with Jina was that she was a random person just traveling from Saqqez to Tehran just to have fun, to visit her family. She was arrested in Metro Haqqani when she was just going to walk with her family member. And she was arrested because her hijab was not really satisfying the morality police. One sentence that her brother said to the police is still hurting us, and like so many sentences remaining in the history of Iran, is one sentence condensing the whole history of oppression and pain. The sentence that her brother told the police was that we are strangers in this town, we are just visiting, could you please let us go? But they did not. Jina was murdered and she died in the, some people believe that she was dead when she was delivered to the hospital, some believe that she died in the hospital, but the outrage started from the same day, and one of the reasons is that her family from the first moment didn't go quiet at all. They started publicly interview with journalists. They refused the body of Jina to be buried overnight, and they also made a huge crowd protesting, and I'm sure that so many of you have seen the videos coming from the funeral ceremony of Jina in Saqqez that our beautiful Kurdish community and the women unveiled themselves and they said that this is a shame to be murdered just because of a headscarf, and until when we are going to stand this oppression. One day after that, the outrage reached Tehran with the slogan of Xinjiang Azadi, woman, life, freedom. For sure, Xinjiang Azadi, this beautiful slogan is coming from the cultivating soil of Kurdistan, and it has its own long history. But the way that it was spread in Iran was just one day after Jina's funeral ceremony, when students of University of Tehran, they were protesting inside the walls of university, knowing that they will be arrested, they will be banned from entering the university. Ever since that day, a revolution has started, and the situation of country is in a revolutionary situation. Of course, it has its own rise and downs, but the moment that we are sitting now, at this moment, the latest updates and the thing that is concerning all of us is the executions. Last Saturday, we all woke up hearing this news that 2 more people have been executed. Sayyid Muhammad Hosseini, aged 39, and Muhammad Karami, aged 22. I'm just saying that 2 more people were executed because maybe you hear in the news that the number of executions are 4, whereas we believe that they are more than this for 2 facts. Because based on the news that our activists from Kurdistan are telling us, when they execute in Tehran, another political prisoner in Kurdistan dies under torture. This is a strategy, political strategy that the regime follows. They don't dare to do executions in Kurdistan because they know that it will come back to their faces with a very huge price. And the executions or the deaths over tortures that we have in Balochistan, they are unfortunately undocumented. We do not have access. And that region in Iran is so oppressed that we do not know the numbers. We do not know sometimes even the names of the missing. So until now we have 4 formally announced executions, but we still believe that the numbers are higher than this. One more point is that executions are involved with a very harsh oppression of journalists and the ones inside Iran fighting to just keep this memory. This is a regime which has built itself with oppressing the memory, with not even allowing for the names to be documented, for massively murdering people and even erasing their graves. Last week, just one day before the execution happened, one journalist from the newspaper that I was working in Tehran, Etemad newspaper, Mehdi Bek, was arrested. He was one of the pioneering journalists who was interviewing the families of the one to be executed and also the political prisoners. Also, before him, my dear friend Milad Alavi, the political journalist of Shah newspaper, was also arrested. Mehdi Bek now is released, but Milad is still in prison. The executions are happening, but in its strategic way. Execution is a way of the regime to tell the people, to the protesters, that it's enough. If you continue, you will be murdered in a way that we are murdering now. I'm just saying that the executions are strategic because they are executing mainly and mostly from working class people in Iran. If you look into the profiles of the ones who have received this penalty in Iran, the majority of them are from working class families. The ones who to regime are considered to be no ones. The ones who do not have that much access to the media, they cannot afford to hire good lawyers, although that even having a lawyer will not make any difference. But that was the thing that happened with the first executions, that we were all shocked because we didn't even know their names. So this is very hurtful for many people because, for instance, with Sayyid Muhammad Hosseini, he didn't even have family members to receive his body. He was a poultry worker. He lost his family 15 years ago. He had just a brother who was also arrested in the protest, but he was released 10 days after, and he's disappeared. Nobody knows where he is, if he's been just murdered somewhere. Sayyid Muhammad Hosseini made it to the press, said that he received a lot of torture, and the way that these executions are happening are, all of them are based on obliged confessions to the thing that they have not done, under a lot of torture. This is what now is striking, this is what now is making everybody to feel very hurtful, but we are insisting and we are saying that we are not going back to the one day before Zhina's death, because even the executions are not stopping people. One great example is what happened last Sunday in Tehran. Although that the executions happened last Saturday, but on Sunday, one news leaked from the Rajai Shah prison in Tehran, and the news was that 2 more people will be executed by the morning. The news was leaked by Atena Daimi, an activist in Iran. And they, on Twitter, announced that we are asking people just to go to the Rajai Shah prison and prevent executions. And people did. The news was announced at 10 at night, and people went there knowing that around the prison, especially Rajai Shah prison, which is famous to be the last stop, the place that if a political prisoner is taken there, it is a message of being executed later. So people went there, the families of the 2 prisoners to be executed also joined there, and whole the country was awake until the morning to just prevent, even just by 2 more hours for 2 people to stay alive, and it happened. The execution didn't happen not just because the regime is hearing people, for sure, no. It is because that they are at this moment in a very fragile standpoint. They know that they are failing, and they know that they want to execute to silence people, but they know that they cannot do anything that they want to do because people are reacting, they're reacting radically. It was a win for us, but it doesn't mean that the executions are stopped. We are worried for sure, but this is anger which will never leave us until we take down this regime. Until we take down this regime with strategies coming from Jian Azadi and having an opportunity building the country with Jian Azadi. Any other school of thought will not be tolerated with people in Iran at this moment.
Vielen Dank, Niloufar, für die Ausführungen. Du hast sehr viele wichtige Punkte bereits aufgegriffen. beispielsweise die Prekarisierung von speziell kurdischen Menschen, aber auch die Stärke und die Gefahr für das Regime, die von ihnen ausgeht. Du hast auch angesprochen, dass es vor allem junge Menschen sind oder auch arbeitende Menschen, studierende Eltern, die sich beteiligen an den Protesten. Du bist eingegangen auf die politische Strategie hinter den mörderischen Hinrichtungen und auch darauf, dass die Erinnerung und die Auslöschung von Erinnerung eine große Rolle spielt in dieser repressiven Strategie. Nun möchte ich gerne noch etwas mehr darauf eingehen, was für eine Bedeutung hat die feministische Bewegung vor Ort, wieso schafft sie es, diese Kämpfe auch alle unter den emanzipatorischen Kämpfen zu verbinden. Was denkst du?
I will start by giving this overview that feminism has its own very long history in Iran. It starts with the constitutional revolution in Iran in 1905 until 1911, when women were radically criticizing the monarchy and wanting to be politically involved in the constitution, as well as radically defending the right of women to receive equal education. The point with feminism in Iran is that feminism is a red word in Iran. When I was working in the newspaper, we were not allowed to write the word feminism. We were always mentioning women. Whereas I think we all believe that working about women is not also, it doesn't necessarily mean to work in a feminist way. There are quite differences between these two. So just giving you some backgrounds is that it is not possible in Iran to have a feminist collective. There are no resources for that. There are not even gender studies or gender associations. There are associations for, like, I'm just talking in the level of formal associations. There are associations for ladies. Even like using the word women, zan, is not tolerated by regime, because zan, woman, reminds regime of a disobedient woman, whereas lady is the one who obeys. The power of this strange but powerful feminism in Iran, first and foremost, comes from over 4 decades of oppression, of even being able to make feminist associations. When you are banned, when you are harshly banned of doing something, you actually want to do that very radically. The other factor is coming from this embodied and also herited oppressions, coming from generations to generations. This is something that no regime, no dictatorship can control. This is a power coming from the stories that you always hear from your mother, from your grandmother, from the other women who really wanted to make change, but they couldn't. This is the power of remembering, and this is the power of knowing that something didn't happen, but why it didn't happen, and you have to make it happen. I was born and raised in Iran, and the first thing that I realized, the first oppression that I realized was coming from my gender when I was just 6 years old. And I'm not the only one, it is the whole country. Your body is your resource of information, and this is again this herited knowledge that you're having. On the other side, if we want to talk about why this revolution is now moving forward, because after the Islamic Revolution, the thing that I actually prefer to call it, the revolution in 1979, which was taken by Islamists, is that we have so many experience of different kinds of protests. In our recent history, we experienced the Green Movement in 2009. I was 17 years old when that happened. We were believing that again, one man is coming and going to save us. We were still believing that reforms are possible, and we were not daring to be radical. That failed, and we failed by that. But the experience didn't fail. After that, 2017, if I'm not mistaken, the Gregorian dates happened. I was a student in University of Tehran where we started a protest, and that protest was against the economical crisis. That again failed. We also failed with that. After that, the bloody November of 2019 happened, with almost more than 1,500 people killed, and so many imprisoned, and so many lost. That failed, but we didn't fail in that part again, because that was the moment that we realized that if we want to imagine an otherwise future, we have to be radical. We have to start imagining. We have to sustain our radical and feminist imaginations. The reason that is winning is because Islamic Republic has built its own representation based on two main things. One has always been being against imperialism of United States, which means that aligning with Russia and China. It doesn't mean they have always represented themselves as anti-imperialism, whereas right now the gas tears that they are throwing to my friends and my family members are made in the United States. At the same time, another representation that they have used to make an identity for themselves was always been built by and through female body. Just 2 months after the revolution of 1979 happened, just after 2 months, Khomeini announced that Islam doesn't tolerate men and women to be naked together, and by being naked he was referring to people swimming in the seashores. And people cannot also tolerate that, and people will de-skin women going naked. And by women going naked on the streets, he was mentioning women going in their swimming sets to the seashores. Ever since that, in order to establish a state, in order to tell the whole world that something has revolutionarily changed, they started to push women under an obligatory, a mandatory veiling, and also raising any other identity. This has always been Achilles' heel of the regime, because this is a part of regime that has no interest for Russia and China. This is not about oil, this is about female body. So many activists in the recent years, they have talked about that the only way to kill this regime is from a feminist and women's movement, because this is the place that Islamic Republic will be alone on its own, as you are right now seeing. We believe it's not alone again, but compared to previous uprisings that we had, nobody's supporting it. Of course, they are not supporting it not because they care about the rights of women in Iran, not because they care about so many people being murdered or erased or imprisoned in Iran. easily because this is something that is out of their interest. And I believe that, as we all believe, this is a point that the regime was always thinking less of. I mean, this is true for so many other things. When you oppress a person, after a while you start to think less of that person. You never know that you're actually creating your own monster, because you think they are women, they are queer groups, they are gays and lesbians, they are Kurds and Baluch. We have oppressed them for so long. They have no resources, they have no party. What can they do? See, they can come and fuck you back. Because first and foremost, you never realize their power, and you never realize that you are oppressing them. But they will remember, their children will remember, their grandchildren will remember, and someday the thing that you never think high of will actually come and destroy you.
Vielen Dank für die Ausführungen und die starken Worte, vor allem zum Schluss. Du hast darüber gesprochen, wie auch die Geschichte und die Erfahrungen eine große Rolle spielen und wie das auch über Generationen weitergegeben wird, also die Wichtigkeit eines intergenerationalen Widerstandes auch. Du hast darüber gesprochen, wie fest die patriarchale Unterdrückung über die Kontrolle von Körpern passiert, von Frauen, von weiblichen Körpern, aber auch über die Sexualität von queer Menschen, von Transpersonen. Du hast auch bist nochmals darauf zurückgekommen, wie fest diese in einem internationalen Kontext steht, auch mit die Rolle Irans und die Beziehung zu China und Russland und den USA. Da werden wir vielleicht im nächsten Teil noch darauf zu sprechen kommen. Nun möchte ich fragen, wie wichtig oder welche Rolle nimmt die internationale Solidaritätsbewegung und vielleicht in unserem Fall jetzt auch spezifisch in Westeuropa ein in diesem Zusammenhang?
For answering this question, I can just give an overview of what has happened and tell you this. I believe that so many of you know this fact, but it is so important that I believe that we have to repeat and repeat again. The thing happening outside of the Iran is very important. It goes beyond solidarity, because this is the first time that the legitimacy of the regime is falling this much. Their name has been, just knowing how the regime works, the mass protests outside of the Iran, and the pressure mostly Iranian community bringing to the states is working against them very well, because it is making them to lose so many of their non-profited supporters in Iran. It is killing their image, and you should hear it from me that this is the image that they have worked for so long to build it. This is the image that they have worked so long to maintain it, to announce to the world that we are not a terrorist regime, that we are an Islamic country with our own specific beliefs, and also blocking any criticism coming to them and interpreting them that this is a Western idea. You are criticizing the veiling in our country, whereas women want to be veiled. And unfortunately, or I don't know why I am even shocked of this. This is the representation that for so many years West has believed in, that wanting to be veiled, and veil of course is a symbol of so many repressions, so many mandatory repressions in Iran, is a will of women in Iran, and they are happy to
to be treated as the second sex in Iran, and so many other oppressions, because it's an Islamic country. Whereas so many people in Iran, so many activists, so many journalists, they've been shouting for so many years that no, this is a mandatory, this is actually the best way of oppressing more than half of the population of country. But because there were no interest for the West, apparently, they didn't want to hear us. I just want to say that this is not the first time that we are shouting, but this is something that we have learned, that we have to be killed, we have to be murdered in masses, that we have to uprise and risk our lives for so long, so maybe we can be seen, maybe we can be heard. This is not only true about Iran, this is only true about Afghanistan. Some weeks ago, women of Afghanistan were deprived of the right to education. I'm just shocked that why the whole world is still doing their business as before. This is the most terrible thing that can happen in the history of feminism. Similar to the thing that happened in the States with the right to abortion, but this is Afghanistan. We know what has happened, and we know the West is responsible for the history of that country. So I just want to say, to not go off the topic, the point is that at this moment, the main solidarity happening outside of the country is organized by Iranian communities and of course supported by so many collectives. I wish Mina Khani was here to talk better about this point. This is a point that I prefer not to go in detail about it because of my background, mostly as a writer and journalist. But so the thing that I'm just saying is coming from this standpoint. It is working, and one win that we had was finally kicking Iran outside of the UN in the women part, which still is shocking that how come Iran can has its own seat in the Association of UN for Women. These are very small wins, but attacking the Islamic Republic's reputation is a big win. Still, there are so many demands of activists outside of the Iran. Next Monday, a big crowd of Iranians are going to Strasbourg in France to ask for the name of IRGC, Sepah Pasdaran Enqilab Islami, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, to be announced as terrorist group. IRGC at this moment is a terrorist organization known in Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and United States. This is a big demand from Iranian that this terrorist organization to also announce as a terrorist in Europe. This is so shocking that at this moment they can come to Europe, visas are being issued for them, for their family members, for their children. They have their spies here. Here at this point, we the ones with Iranian passports should tremble because they are watching us, they are hearing us. And even here, we should tremble about our freedom of speech. So we believe that next Monday is a very important day, and blocking their bank accounts here, putting more blocks on their ways to come to Europe and send away their children can also be a very important success. To specifically talk about the feminist solidarity outside of the Iran, I believe that the organization of Berliner Feminista, the one in Berlin that we had Sanas Azimi coming from there is a very good example. I wish that in the next meetings we have the possibility of them coming. The point is that the point that they are covering right now is finding political patrons for the ones to be executed in Iran. It is also happening right now in Switzerland that the parliament members of Switzerland are accepting to be political patrons of the political prisoners in Iran who have received this penalty. You may wonder what can be the result of this political patron. I can tell you it can be nothing for sure, because one of the ones who was executed, he had his own patron, but it has so many results in the West because it gives some radical members of parliament to have this close chance of following what is happening in Iran and being involved without Iranian members just giving the news. And it brings more pressure, and as I mentioned before, it ruins the this constructed image of the regime.
Genau, und dann gleich zur Anschlussfrage, also je nachdem können wir das dann gleich noch auch direkt in die Publikumsflüsterrunden nehmen, aber auf jeden Fall wollte ich da noch mal einhaken und nachfragen, wie du quasi im feministischen Kontext die internationale Solidaritätsbewegung erlebst, also quasi, ich würde sagen, in unserem Fall jetzt so in diesem Teil von Europa, wie ist es in der Schweiz, was bekommst du mit aus anderen europäischen Ländern und beispielsweise lässt sich ja auch in der Schweiz beobachten, dass sich jetzt mit der freeiran.ch ein neues Bündnis formiert hat und die Frage ist halt, inwiefern dort drin feministische Themen verhandelt werden, weil ja der ursprüngliche Ausgang der aktuellen Revolution das ist.
This is the point that I actually would like to have a collective conversation about it, because I left Iran in September 2021, and my experience of knowing the solidarity in West is a bit limited to the number of months that I've been living here. I can just give you one overview about the question that you're asking, and the overview is for sure coming from my own experience, which is an experience of being shocked so many times. But if I want to make a good conclusion out of that, just living beside so many important things happening here, I want to point out the thing that they have came to my attention, and I think they are really important, even though that I have talked about them for so many times and have made so many people uncomfortable, but I believe that this is the responsibility of radical feminists to make the rooms uncomfortable as much as possible, because if there's something uncomfortable, it means that there are things that they're unsolved. One point that has came to my attention is that it is not about necessarily about feminist solidarity in Switzerland. It is about Switzerland in general and its neutrality. I know this is a thing that we all laugh about, we joke a lot about it. I have made a lot of jokes about it, but I cannot laugh about Switzerland's neutrality anymore. Switzerland has and is gaining a lot of interest with its neutrality, especially from Iran. I'm not going to bore you with the information. I think you should know better than I do. The point is that this is an action that we can do, because we have the example of Ukraine, and we can see that maybe Switzerland can also rethink about neutrality, and I believe that it will. because the regime will fall. But it really matters for Switzerland when it changes its idea. If they get rid of this neutrality after everything is done, after so many people have died, and to be the last one supporting the thing that has already done, I won't buy that anymore. I won't buy that. And I will still say that so many of the money circulating here in Switzerland is bloody, because it just reminds me of a Farsi saying that we have نان خود را در خون زدن, meaning to put your bread into the blood, meaning to gain your interest, gain your wealth, gain your capital directly by the blood of people. And it is happening in Switzerland. On the other side of this very close relationship of Switzerland and Iran, which is coming from its neutrality, which is making the, I'm not talking about the arena of activism here, but I'm just talking about the normal people living in Switzerland. Because it's not on the surface, people in Switzerland believe that Iran is a very far away country. Things happen there. It's in Middle East, and things are like this in Middle East. And what do you want more? Do you think things will change? And so many questions coming like this to my face. Do you have any hope? Can such thing happen in Middle East and stuff? I don't want to repeat these very disrespectful and offensive questions. But the point is that we believe that something can happen in Switzerland. But the thing that can happen is it requires the left to a bit rethink its strategy. Of course, I also consider myself as left. Of course, when I was also working as a journalist, the worst thing that I wanted to was sitting in front of the members of the government. I was physically hating them. Even like bearing half an hour of sitting in front of them and hearing the bullshit that they were bringing in was unbearable. But I knew that I even have to, at that moment when I was in Iran, I even have to document their wars in order to show to the next generation that we wanted, but they were so stupid that they were not even seeing that. I'm not suggesting the same thing here in Switzerland. I'm just saying that I believe that especially for left feminists, it is very physically and personally difficult to want to be involved by the state. But then my question is, it's a very practical question, and I actually would like to know how you think about it. But then my question is that if we do not put direct pressure, then how could we expect a change? In the context of countries like Iran, Afghanistan, this is the difference. I think this is the difference that I hope West can understand. In the context of countries like Iran and Afghanistan and regions like Kurdistan, urgency matters. If you are late for 1 hour, people die. Prices get higher, and there is this chance that everything will fall again and again and again. This is the urgency that we know it, not because we know too much, but because we have lived this urgency. This is the urgency that I hope that the left in West can understand. One criticism that I can bring here, and I want to refer to Amina Mama, the activist from Nigeria, the one sentence that when I read from her, it really touched me, was her criticism that, especially regarding to countries with Muslim majorities, the way that West is the activists in West is approaching is more trying to be politically correct than wanting to be political. Of course, being politically correct matters. I'm just saying this because in the beginning days of the revolution, so many activists, they were telling me that we cannot talk about this because if we talk about Muslim women burning their hijabs, then we will be seen as Islamophobia. Then I was just like, first of all, why do you think the people in Iran are Muslims? Why? You can ask. This is the urgency. We can make mistakes by asking. You know that coloniality, patriarchy, racism, sexism, all these demons, all these maladies of humankind make themselves by putting a distance between the person and the subject. I am worried about this distance in overtly being politically correct, because when you put this distance, you give this opportunity to yourself to not be involved in it, to just watch it, and say that, hey, like this is, I mean, these are like brown people, these are Muslim women, these are people of color. If I say something, it will be incorrect. Be incorrect. We are here. We can. If you are incorrect, we can work it together. Being incorrect verbally is better than not doing anything. Is better than not being political. I truly believe at this moment that I'm living in Switzerland, I don't know how my ideas will change in the future. I really believe that left needs more radicalism, not verbally radicalism, and also being careful about how neoliberalism and capitalism are very secretly coming and taking over our thinkings. In this regard, we can just a bit like think about the invasion of the idea of care in feminism, solidarity. We should really be careful with the hidden neoliberality in the care in feminist solidarity. I personally prefer women who are angry, who are angrily arguing with each other, who are shouting, than women who are hugging each other. We can hug later, but let's hug each other when the revolution is over, when we have made some changes. Let's party when the revolution is over. I'm not saying just to leave one for the sake of the other. I'm just saying that we have to be careful which one is more important and which one is bringing solutions, actions at this moment.
Vielen herzlichen Dank für die starken Worte und auch Bilder und das Betonen der Dringlichkeit des Handelns und auch eben, dass du die Frage der Praxis aufwirfst, also wie gehen wir jetzt konkret weiter in dieser Situation. Und du hast auch nochmals betont, wie relevant der Standort hier in der Schweiz ist und wie ja, das quasi das, was sie Sprichwort sagt, dass Privilegien und Reichtum auch im Blut der Welt getüncht werden oder sind. Und ich denke, das ist eine Chance, dass wir von dem Standort hier ausgehen können und von der Runde hier. Du hast auch über die Vernetzung gesprochen. Und ich würde jetzt vorschlagen, dass wir das in einer Flüsterrunde machen. Und zwar wäre die Idee, dass alle sich so 5 bis 10 Minuten, oder ich weiß nicht, vielleicht, wir machen nachher sowieso Pause, aber sagen wir mal sicher so 5 bis 7 Minuten, sich austauschen mit den Menschen, die neben euch sitzen. Und zwar wollen wir uns konkret fragen, wie sieht Solidaritätsarbeit konkret aus, hier in der Schweiz, in Bezug auf die Proteste im Iran oder auf die Ukraine? Falls ihr bereits Erfahrungen gemacht habt, könnt ihr euch auch über Schwierigkeiten oder Herausforderungen austauschen oder auf die Frage eingehen, ob es Unstimmigkeiten gab und Konflikte und wie sich das Verhältnis zwischen der Diaspora, das du auch angesprochen hast, die Wichtigkeit der Menschen, die hier Proteste organisieren, und Aktivistinnen, von uns Aktivistinnen hier in Europa, wie sich das ausgestaltet. Dann würde ich sagen, machen wir jetzt bis etwa zwischen 20 vor und Viertel vor kommen wir wieder zurück ins Plenum und holen einige Worte ab. Die Frage noch was stellen? Für Fragen wird es Zeit geben. Am Schluss, ja, werden wir darauf zu. Ist das gut für Sie? Sehr gut. Nach der Plenumsdiskussion wird es eine Pause geben.
Very strong words and pictures.
Just like the last question, like repeated from the translation is like missing. But I think
sorry,
no. But I think it was again about the imperialism point.
No, we didn't ask that so far. It was about the meaning of feminism in the Solidarity movement outside of Iran.
Okay.
But I mean, it's very
Und vor 43 Jahren, Khomeini war in Bagdad, im Irak, im Exil. Und damals in Afghanistan gibt es auch eine kommunistische Regierung. Die Kurden und Linken in der Türkei waren sehr, sehr stark. Und natürlich, die Linken im Iran waren auch sehr, sehr stark. Und USA hat ganz, ganz bewusst nach 15 Jahren Khomeini nach Frankreich geschickt und nachher nach Iran gebracht. Das heißt, am Anfang, wir haben keinen Zweifel gehabt, das Regime arbeitet mit USA und westlichen Ländern. Aber heute haben sie nur Interessekonflikte. Und wenn man die Geschichte schaut, seit 115 Jahren vor, das heißt, seit Inqilab Mashrute, konzessionelle Revolution im Iran, sind immer systematisch die Linken umgebracht. Die Massaker im Jahr 1988, Regime hat viele, viele Linken umgebracht. Khabaram ist ein Beispiel dafür. Und jetzt, wenn man sagt, zum Beispiel, Iran hat sich mit Russland angeschlossen, weil Russland Anti-Imperialist ist. In Russland, Oligarchen sind an der Macht. Solange Nawalny und Agents im Gefängnis sind, kann man nicht sagen, Russland ist besser als USA, USA ist besser als Russland. Beide sind Imperialisten. Beide wollen nur einfach die Ressourcen von dritten Weltländern haben. Deshalb ich frage mich, wie kann man sagen, Russland ist Anti-Imperialist, deshalb Iran ist zum Russland gegangen. Die Drohnen, die Iran jetzt nach Russland schickt, alle Teile von diesen Ersatzteilen, alle kommen aus USA. Genau, natürlich. Wir können nicht sagen, Schweiz ist neutral, überhaupt nicht. Ich möchte nicht in diesem Gebiet einfach darüber sprechen. Aber man sieht, wir haben 8 Jahre lang Krieg mit Irak gehabt. Und Schweiz hat einen Teil von Waffen nach Irak geschickt und einen Teil nach Iran. Obwohl die beiden Länder miteinander Probleme hatten. Ich möchte auch über feministische Situation im Iran sprechen, aber vielleicht Zeitbudget erlaubt mir nicht und ich möchte nicht auch die Zeit von anderen nehmen, aber unsere Revolution hat Eigenschaften und heute wurde nicht darüber gesprochen. Das Regime hat während 43 Jahren versucht, immer die Frauen zu vernichten. Und Schwächepunkt von der Regierung waren die Frauen, weil sie wollten zeigen mit Chador, dass sie wirklich Muslim sind und sie glauben an Islam. Und immer haben die Frauen als Schwäche bezeichnet, als Weibe bezeichnet. Aber diese Weibe, einfach die sogenannte zweite Klasse, haben die Regierung, sie sind auf die Straße gekommen und haben mit Regierung wirklich ein Challenge gemacht. Und haben gesagt, wir sind stark. Die Regierung hat 43 Jahre versucht, immer die Frauen zu diskriminieren. Aber die Eigenschaften, jetzt die Männer und Frauen schließen sich ein. Und unsere Revolution im Iran ist ganz besonders, weil in der Geschichte im Iran hat nicht gesehen, die eine Revolution gibt, die nicht religiös ist. Unsere jetzige Revolution ist überhaupt nicht religiös. Überhaupt nicht. Und das ist eine große Eigenschaft. Und alle Menschen sind solidarisch mit Frauen im Iran. Und einfach der Tod von Mahsa Amini hat nur einfach, wie kann ich Ihnen sagen, hat einen Fonds gegeben. Aber die Frauen seit 43 Jahren kämpfen mit der Regierung. Sie dürften nicht die Stimme erheben, aber geheim, zum Beispiel, die Frauen haben immer 8. März gefeiert. 8. März gefeiert. Welche Frauen waren sie? Die Frauen, die Arbeit verloren haben, die Frauen, die ihre Bekannten hingerichtet wurden und die intellektuelle Frauen und sogar, wenn wir 8 Jahre lang Krieg mit Irak gehabt hatten, das Regime hat immer versucht und die Frauen aktiviert, muslimische Frauen einfach im Kampffront geschickt. Und die Frauen, wenn sie zurückgekommen sind, Krieg vorbei war, waren erwerblos. Und sie haben gedacht, sie wurden instrumentalisiert. Und deshalb diese Frauen waren gegen Regierung und sie haben sich angeschlossen.
Vielen herzlichen Dank für den Input.
Merci.
Sehr wichtige Punkte, die aufgegriffen wurden. Und wir werden im zweiten Teil auch nochmals auf das zurückkommen mit der Frage des Imperialismus, des Antiimperialismus. Und ich glaube, was ich jetzt bevorzugen würde, wäre, dass wir uns nochmals fragen, wie wir das aktivistisch umsetzen können. Und da würde uns sehr interessieren, was ihr besprochen habt. Ja.
Ja, also ich glaube zuerst, ich bin beim Funke aktiv und deshalb ja, habe ich wieder eine klare Meinung dazu, logischerweise so. Aber ich glaube, was doch zentral ist, ist doch... Ist gut? Ah, okay. Ja, voll. Aber ich glaube, was wir beobachten, oder dass die Solidarität, die wir sehen jetzt in der Schweiz, die beschränkt sich hauptsächlich doch auf demokratische Forderungen und so eine liberale Unterstützung der iranischen Bewegung. So man sagt, ah ja, die Frauen kämpfen für ihre Befreiung, sie brauchen demokratische Rechte, sie müssen mitbestimmen können. Aber ich glaube, diese Solidarität ist einfach völlig bürgerlich oder so. Es ignoriert, dass der Kampf im Iran nicht nur um Frauenrechte geht, sondern dass dieser Kampf inhärenter Teil eines Kampfes gegen das gesamte System ist. Weil also die Frauenrechte können nicht, die Ziele der Frauen im Iran können nicht erreicht werden, wenn wir weiterhin im Kapitalismus leben. So, wir müssen die materiellen Bedingungen ändern, die Basis für diese Frauenunterdrückung bilden, im Iran und weltweit. Und da können wir ansetzen, oder wo wir tatsächlich etwas machen können in der Schweiz. Wir können in der Schweiz genau gegen dieses System kämpfen, das weltweit das Interesse hat, diese Frauenunterdrückung aufrechtzuerhalten. Und das können wir in der Schweiz machen gegen die Kapitalisten, die auch von der Situation im Iran profitieren, aber vor allem auch ohne Vertrauen in irgendwie unseren Bundesrat. So, der wird sicher nicht dafür sorgen, dass im Iran die Frauen eine bessere Position haben. Das müssen wir machen, das muss die weltweite Arbeiterklasse machen. Und dafür müssen wir uns in der Schweiz organisieren.
Vielen Dank für das Votum. Vielleicht sammeln wir noch so 2, 3 weitere Voten und dann kannst du gerne Stellung nehmen. Gibt es noch weitere Voten?
Ja, zuerst mal vielen Dank für den sehr bewegenden Vortrag und die Einblicke. Wir haben ein bisschen mehr diskutiert, eben wie diese Solidaritätsarbeit, also was diesem Praktischwerden vielleicht ein bisschen im Weg steht. Und wir haben den Eindruck, dass zum Beispiel im Vergleich zu der kurdischen...
Könntest du aufstehen, damit sie dich besser sehen vielleicht?
Das im Vergleich irgendwie zu der kurdischen Freiheitsbewegung, die ja sehr stark auch von der radikalen Linken irgendwie, also die Solidarität damit sehr stark ist und irgendwie auch praktisch in der Zusammenarbeit, dass vielleicht gerade im Iran, aber auch bei der Solidarität mit der Ukraine so manchmal so eben das, was du auch angesprochen hast, gewisse Vorbehalte oder so Ängste vorherrschen, um ganz klare Positionen einzunehmen, weil eben teils vielleicht der Widerstand oder jetzt die revolutionäre Bewegung selbst nicht ganz klar als komplett links gelabelt ist oder so und dann wie Ängste teils bestehen. Also zum Beispiel jetzt in Bezug auf der Ukraine, dass wenn man sich ganz klar solidarisch erklärt mit dem Widerstand gegen die Invasion, dass dann man auch irgendwie mit ukrainischen NationalistInnen zusammengeworfen wird und das, oder jetzt im Iran, dass zum Beispiel halt auch Liberale irgendwie auch in der Revolution vertreten sind und dass das sozusagen einer kompromisslosen Solidarität manchmal wie im Weg steht. Und ich glaube, es würde auch darum gehen, zu diskutieren, wie man das überwinden kann, wie man trotzdem ganz klar Position beziehen kann und eben diese dann auch praktisch werden zu lassen und vor Ort zu wirken und eben genau das, was auch angesprochen worden ist, wie man ja, auch die Schweizer Verstrickung ja, in Angriff nehmen kann.
Vielen Dank für das Votum. In jedem Fall möchtest du jetzt schon etwas sagen oder sollen wir noch ein paar weitere Voten einholen? Wir holen mehr Statements ein.
Das kann ich gut verstehen. Es war jetzt ja noch nicht so viel. Im Aufstand, okay. Also für mich war, oder bei uns im Austausch war, ich spreche jetzt einfach für mich, das war jetzt nicht mit euch abgestimmt, die Frage einerseits, wie können wir tatsächlich durch Öffentlichkeitsarbeit, durch Präsenz den Druck erhöhen auf die Nationalräte, Ständeräte ganz konkret, um eben den Bundesrat da noch mehr in die Handlung zu zwingen. Und da ist für mich schon die Frage, was und in welcher Form das effektiv ist, so dass es Öffentlichkeit kriegt, regeneriert, damit wir, die wir auch immer mal wieder müde sind, uns leisten können, müde zu sein, wo ich nicht mehr mag, hinzuschauen, weil es so viele Baustellen auf der Welt gibt. Es ist ja nicht nur, in Anführungszeichen, Iran, Irak, Afghanistan, Syrien, es hört ja fast nicht auf. Also die Frage auch, wie schauen wir uns seelisch, dass wir ich nicht irgendwann auch einfach müde bin und denke, nee, ich mache gar nichts mehr, das hat ja sowieso keinen Sinn. Also diesen innerpsychischen Mechanismus, dem auch Rechnung tragen, um mit dem unterwegs bewusst zu sein. Und wie schaffen wir die Öffentlichkeit auch, dass es sichtbar ist, was jede Stunde passiert, zum Beispiel bei euch in Iran, oder? 16 Tage gegen Gewalt hat es irgendwann mal fertiggebracht, das Thema der Feminizide ein bisschen sichtbarer zu machen. Man trifft sich, Frau trifft sich, Mensch trifft sich auf dem Niunamenos-Platz, wenn ein Feminizid passiert ist. Ich glaube, wir müssen auch solche Orte schaffen, um Ausdruck gegen Außen, sichtbaren Ausdruck, der medial vielleicht sogar eben aufgegriffen wird, damit das Thema nicht vergessen geht und wir gemeinsam miteinander auch Orte schaffen, um uns seelisch von mir aus auszubrüllen, der Wut Ausdruck zu geben. Verdammt nochmal diese Scheiße, oder? Und wir sind relativ ohnmächtig und trotzdem, wir haben eine Macht gemeinsam. Also diese Form von Wut, konstruktiv, möglichst kreativ Ausdruck zu geben, bis hin zu farbig, weiß nicht was. Ich glaube wirklich, wir müssen da dranbleiben. Nicht wegschauen, nicht müde werden. Wir können es uns leisten, müde zu sein. Und trotzdem müssen wir eine Balance finden im Aktivismus, um den Druck zu erhöhen. Also ich finde, politischer Druck muss erhöht werden, ganz klar. Diese Wirtschaftsscheiße ist wirklich doof. Mehr als doof.
Vielen Dank für das Votum. Sehr wichtige Dinge wurden gesagt. Gibt es weitere Voten? Würdest du sonst gerne Stellung nehmen, Hilfe?
Thank you very much. There are, I think, very important points to talk, and actually I would like to continue conversation. Like, I'm not saying that I'm answering these points, just saying how I think about them. I would start from the first notes on imperialism. So the point is that for us, the ones raised and born in Iran, Islamic regime is a dictatorship, and whatever they claim, like if they say right now it's a day, we believe it's night. So their claim of being anti-imperialism is showing that they are actually imperialism in so many terms. It is just some clothes that they wear, and these clothes are chosen by, most of them are chosen by knowing West, knowing that how the mainstream media first and foremost, and also mainstream activism works in the West. This is true about they being announcing that they are anti-imperialism. This is true about their nuclear deal. Let just me tell you this one in with brackets that the time that I arrived here, when anybody was hearing that I'm from Iran, the first thing that they were asking was that, what do you think of nuclear deal? I was just like, well, why should I even have strong opinions about it? I think it's even talking about it is unnecessary. And they were just talking and showing that how they are afraid of it. My answer was coming that actually I want to see a day that they launch their nuclear bombs. I will go and get a bag of popcorn and happily watch, because I know it will go up and come to their heads. It's a dictatorship regime. It exists itself by false claim, by the claims that will give legitimation to itself. So, and also it has its historical past, which I think you should know better than I do. Islamic revolution is a stolen revolution. Is a stolen revolution of the left. The reason that they announce themselves as anti-imperialism, because they stole more than 20 years of fight of the left and communist parties in Iran, who paid a lot of price fighting against the dictator monarchy of Pahlavi in Iran. Some of Iranians, they want the monarchy back. Good. So they stole this framework of, we know revolution, the idea of revolution is coming from left. They stole the whole settlement, the whole fight, and some of the vocabularies from the left. So knowing that this will bring the attention of the West, knowing that this will help them to make an identity recognized easily by the West. They know your language. You should also know their language. So I think by you and with you, I'm referring to the West. The way that you can know their language is knowing that whatever they claim, it is the opposite. I'm just saying, if one of them right now tells me as an Iranian person, it is they, I won't believe it. I will think, and it is not me being paranoid. It is the history telling and showing us that there is a reason that they are insisting right now it's they. One other point, again, I try to mention this, knowing that we know, I mean, I don't know it, but I'm hearing it over and over again, that the government of Switzerland will do nothing. I also know it, and I was just mentioning that, especially in the left and radical discourses, it is really difficult to want to talk directly with the government, and this is not the thing that I'm proposing, but I just want to tell you why this is important. Right now that Switzerland is not taking any stance against Iran, it is blocking so many things. So many of the efforts of activists here are being blocked. I can just give you one example that happened to me. The moment it took us almost 3 months to be able to hold a conversation about Iran in ETH. It's a state university, and they were telling us that a state university cannot take any political stance. So you see, it's blocks, and this is one very small example, and one conversation happening in ETH will do nothing, I know. But this way of thinking, to me, is very dangerous, because if also me and my friends in Iran, if they were also thinking like this, they were not starting a revolution. Sometimes enough is enough, and you know, I mean, this is why, like, this is a kind of thinking that's coming from the youth, and the teenagers in Iran, you know that that regime, that government, that the state is not giving the thing that you want, you change it. It is not like by just saying that I know it's not going to change, so let's do something else. Unfortunately, something else is important, but it is not as urgent as changing the state. Because that is where the resources are laid in, that is where the connections are laid in, that is unfortunately where this capitalist power is laid in. How can we kill a demon when we are not attacking its heart? Of course, pointing to the feet, to the hands, which are important, and it will make some consequences. But sometimes we have to start attacking the heart. And I believe that, of course, so many people have criticized Switzerland's non-neutral neutrality, but until the moment that Switzerland leaves its neutrality, this neutrality will bring a lot of hurt and problems to the countries like Iran that Switzerland is gaining benefit from. Until that moment, of course, we can do so many things, but this is the thing that should be done. And I believe that we should put a lot of pressure, hoping that the day will come. We have one more point. Let me just go quickly. And one other point, this is about that, for example, that the solidarity is happening with Ukraine because simply we know that it is a war started by Russia, and I'm just translating it in a very simple language, but I don't mean that it's simple. That we are supporting Ukraine because we, as left, we know that we should be anti-Russia. I just want to say that maybe sometimes we are responsible to complicate things, and also maybe sometimes again refer to our definitions. Just again ask ourselves, what is left? This is a question that, like, in the first months, one of the comrades asked me. She was asking me that I should know. She was asking me who is the leader. I was just saying we don't have a leader, and we don't want to have a leader, and especially we do not want a male leader. I mean, we will kick them as a male leader. It's enough. Then she was asking me that where this revolution is leading to. I was just saying, you know where? Anywhere except here, and actually to nowhere. We do not know. We just know that we are tired of it, we are fed up, and we cannot stand this anymore, and we cannot stand anything similar to this anymore. And what is this? This is a dictatorship which can be a theory class for so many dictators to come in the history. And then the question was, then you don't have it, this doesn't have a leader, it is not coming, and another question was that, who are the groups or collectives leading this? And I was just saying, people on the street, people who cannot even provide a bowl of rice for their children, the people who has always made this responsibility of fighting for. And this person was telling me that, okay, I don't know if I can support this because it is not aligning with my understanding of left. We continued the discussion, but this question made me think about that. Which one is more important, to sticking to the definitions that we have, or seeing what is happening at the moment, and sometimes redefining our definitions, but by the already existing thing. What is left? What is the use of left if it's closing its eyes to the more than 300 of people dying on the street, majority of which are from working class, from poor class, from the people who have nothing else than their bodies to bring it to the street and be murdered just to say that I cannot stand this anymore?
thank you very much for your. Kann ich nicht durchsetzen. Danke vielmals für deine Stellungnahme und die starken Worte einmal mehr. Wir würden jetzt 15 Minuten Pause machen. 10 Minuten Pause machen. Also bis 20 nach, 25 nach. 25 nach und findet uns dann gemeinsam wieder hier zur Zeitenhälfte.
Gonna be 15 anyway at the end. I thought if we have this time, it's 10.
Aha,
Yeah.
25, yeah. Or half.
No, well,
I mean, the
if
good
we
thing
say
is
10, they come back in 15.
Aha, yeah, now.
So,
Yeah, so.
and I thought if we do now 20 in reality, then
Yeah.
we have time. ihr euch wieder niederlässt, ist dann bald Mittagspause, und dass wir die Tür schließen, wenn alle drin sind, und dass ihr euer Übersetzungsgerät wieder in Position bringt. Auf jeden Fall haben wir jetzt noch eine Diskussionsfrage für uns hier vorne, bevor wir dann nachher für die abschließende Publikumsdiskussion und Fragerunde öffnen. Ja, also als wir diesen Workshop vorbereitet haben, ging es darum, verschiedene Bewegungen, insbesondere feministische Bewegungen, zusammenzudenken, die oftmals in Westeuropa ignoriert werden oder viel zu wenig behandelt werden. Und wir haben jetzt schon vor der Pause ein paar Mal über Imperialismus gesprochen, und dazu hätte ich noch folgende Frage. Also sowohl Aktivistinnen und Aktivisten aus dem Iran wie aus der Ukraine kritisieren, dass die Geschehnisse in ihren Ländern oftmals in quasi diesem Teil der Welt, also quasi der Schweiz oder allgemein Westeuropa, weitgehend ignoriert werden. Man kann ganz klar feststellen, dass eine höhere mediale Aufmerksamkeit für den Ukraine-Krieg vorhanden ist als für die momentane iranische Revolution. Aber beispielsweise, wenn wir dann über sexualisierte Gewalt als Kriegswaffe sprechen, ist das dann wieder sehr ähnlich, nicht, dass es ignoriert wird. Und genau dazu möchte ich dich nach deiner Meinung fragen und habe dann eventuell noch eine Anschlussfrage.
Do you want me to generally talk about imperialism or this double-sided way of covering the news of Ukraine and Iran? I can, of course, talk about both of them.
Let's say both of them.
Okay. If I want to talk about how I see the Eurocentrism in the coverage of the news about Iran, I can just remind you of one news that it went viral, and it shocked us how so many people were posting this news. And actually, like, I woke up that morning receiving so many congratulations from my friends here and telling me that, oh, congratulations, your feminist uprising won. And I was like, how is it winning when my friends are still in prison and like people are being arrested? And then I went through the news, and there was a fake news about that, very, very much covered here, right here in the Western Europe. And the news was that through the protests of women in Iran, the morality police has been abolished. My question was that, do you think people will kill themselves just to abolish one morality police? How many times should we shout that we want a regime change? And how many times should we shout that this is a dictatorship? And winning doesn't have a meaning in a dictatorship. That was a very important moment for us because we know the lobbyists and the media of regime outside of the Iran. They are financed by the regime and also in some countries by the West. One of the prime examples of these lobbyistic groups are NIAC in the States, and they have their own reporters and journalists in very big medias, one of which is New York Times. Interestingly, these journalists attacked by Iranian communities, they always use the card of being a woman of color, being a woman of color, and receiving insults, sexual insults on their Twitter. And that's the way that they use this card. Again, knowing how the West understand these matters, but understand them in their in a very shallow way. Like if a woman of color is coming and saying that I'm being insulted because I'm a woman of color, the person, the Western person is shut. And they don't investigate more that why. I mean, why your own people are this much criticizing you, why your own people are telling that you are giving your hand to the hand of the regime. This is, again, it comes back to this keeping this distance between you and the subject that you are working with. You is the Western person, activist, who is a bit trembling when you want to support it, but you're also trembling and you just want to be politically correct, not to ask a politically problematic question, whereas not remembering that the person in front of you knows your game, knows your trick, and will actually use your game against you. So the problem with the mass media coverage, with I personally have no hopes with them, but it's important with spreading the information to people and also sustaining the revolution, also giving some hopes to the people in Iran that their loud voice is also heard. This is very important and also very hurtful matter for us, as well as I believe Afghanistani people, also communities in Kurdistan. We believe that our voice is never heard, our voice is always manipulated, because we are not the one having the resources, we are not having the links to the mass media outside of our oppressed regions. And the only way that our voice can be heard, again heard in a very low volume, is when we die in mass volumes. Some weeks ago, one Iranian person committed suicide in the city of Lyon, and he made a video out of himself telling that I am mentally healthy. The only way that I'm committing suicide and jumping into the river is because I am so touched by the absence of our voices, and I know that the way to deliver this voice to Western media is with being inventive in a way that you die. And I'm doing this so the people can hear my voice. Of course, I know that killing yourself to support a protest is not an easy issue to be understood. Like the first thing that comes to your mind is that, but you can support or resist with other ways. I see it in a different way. I see it from knowing that your voice is not being heard. I think the topic with the voice has its own similarities with, again, imperialism. And I believe that, again, until now, I see that Western Europe sees, understands anti-imperialism still with a distance, and understands the actions of anti-imperialism in other parts of the world, similarly that it understands in the context of Europe. I think that we should always be careful about the complexities in other regions of the world, and knowing that when we are looking to the different contexts in the world, we should also sometimes change our vocabularies. Talking about the situation in Iran, I'm just telling you that at this moment there are so many left people, but as my friend just some minutes ago mentioned beautifully, left is one category that right and fundamentalist Islamists together disagree with. Then this is always the question that how an Islamic regime can be left, a regime introducing itself, building itself with the fundamentals of Islam in a way that they understand it. How can follow the lessons that left is bringing to us. It is really asking this regime to support the rights of LGBTQIA plus communities. It is a sin. It has its own. If you announce yourself as gay in Iran, you will die. These are two things that they will never come together. The point is that when we want to think about imperialism and anti-imperialism and try to break these Eurocentric boxes that we have in our head, we should look to what is happening at that moment in the country by the most voiceless groups. And this is difficult, I know. This requires your media to follow. And this comes with you asking your media to cover this. Since the revolution has happened, I am for sure writing for here and there. But something else should also happen parallelly. If you think that your media is not covering, or it's not covering in a way that you want, you can ask them. This is why pressure and asking for the pressure and insisting to having the pressure is a radical act, because you are asking for a thing that doesn't exist. It's a radical imagination, the imagination of what doesn't exist, but you think that it should exist. The way, again, I'm just talking about the left in Iran in a way that there's no left party, there's no left group, lefts are massively oppressed, imprisoned. It's true about left journalists, it is true about left writers, left activists. No, we have no left politician, no left. The thing that is happening is just happening with the workers' unions. So many protests by workers, informal and illegal unions have happened, and it is happening. The point is that their voice doesn't reach to here, or if it does, it is again manipulated by the mass Western media, which are being fed directly and indirectly by Islamic regime. Directly by the journalists who are working for them, majority of which are women, so the West doesn't dare to criticize them just because of being a woman of color. Apart from that, also some academicians. I just want to tell you that they have been able to sustain a dictatorship for over 4 decades. Just compare it with the dictatorship of Pinochet. It didn't last this much. If they have managed to sustain this dictatorship for over 4 decades, it doesn't mean that they are. It doesn't mean that they have the legitimacy. It doesn't mean that it is the wish of people in Iran. It means that they know their politics. They know their strategies, especially with the West. They know how to deal with it. So just trying to think outside of the box of Eurocentrism about imperialism, I think that we always have to remind ourselves that we should see the matter and hear and give the voice to the voice of the most, like the most unheard and oppressed people. And it requires time, it requires a lot of involvement, and it requires listening. It requires a lot of listening, because if you just read one article or one interview coming from working groups, for example from Haftape in Khuzestan, you easily will understand that Islamic regime is not an anti-imperialism regime, because it's, as I told before, it is first and foremost oppressing workers. It is oppressing the ones that to the regime are nobodies. You can also look to the list of the political prisoners. You can also look to the list of people in exile, the people executed. I think this strategy could also be true for so many other regimes like Russia. I believe that if a country, if a regime is oppressing its most voiceless people, or let me frame it like this, if in a country the workers, the queer community, the women are regarded, are in the position of the least, like the lowest, that country will never be an anti-imperialism. That country is not a left country, and anything coming out of that, that's a dictatorship. Let's use this word, let's use this old word. It's just a dictatorship.
Ja, danke vielmals. Das war auch schon eigentlich die Überleitung zu meiner letzten Frage, die ich jetzt auch aus Zeitgründen mit in die Publikumsdiskussion nehme, weil ein Zusammenhang, der uns in der Vorbereitung, also quasi uns bei der WFS, zwischen dem Ukraine-Krieg und der iranischen Revolution auch aufgefallen ist halt, dass es mag zwar sein, dass die Ukraine in der Gesamtgesellschaft in der Schweiz nicht ignoriert wurde, aber wenn wir jetzt über die Linke sprechen, dann haben wir sowohl beim Iran wie auch bei der Ukraine die Situation, dass oft Unterdrückungen von Regimes wie dem Mullah-Regime oder dem Putin-Regime nicht ernst genommen werden. Also das wäre jetzt die Hypothese, die ich mal in den Raum stelle, weil die Aggression nicht vom US-Imperialismus auskommt. Und das ist zum Beispiel ein Zusammenhang. Und das fände ich spannend in die Diskussion aufzunehmen, und vielleicht habt ihr auch noch andere Nachfragen oder andere Diskussionspunkte. Und nochmal zur Erinnerung, also bitte denkt daran, jetzt in der wenigen verbleibenden Zeit, die wir noch haben, eure Voten vielleicht so auf 3 Minuten zu beschränken. Wir behalten uns auch vor, Leute dran zu nehmen, die noch nicht gesprochen haben, und wieder dasselbe mit dem Mikrofon. Wir stehen zu zweit bereit für euch, wenn ihr Fragen habt, Anregungen.
Ohne den ersten Teil bzw. deine erste Frage oder das Thema ignorieren zu wollen oder auf die Seite schieben zu wollen, bei mir drängt eine andere Frage noch. Und zwar sehe ich sowohl in der Schweiz wie, und das würde mich interessieren, wie du das siehst im Iran, auch eine Problematik, wie können wir als feministische Kräfte versuchen, auch bürgerliche Frauen mit Sternchen in die Solidaritätsbewegung reinzunehmen. Du hast erwähnt, dass es im Iran ja vor allem auch eine Klassenfrage ist, auf wen das Regime primär zugeht. Aber welche Möglichkeiten siehst du, welche Möglichkeiten sehen wir, dass wir bürgerliche Frauen, mir kommt jetzt Doris Fiala in den Sinn, die sich solidarisiert, aber sich als Politikerin distanziert. Also sie sagt, ich bin als Privatperson an der Demo. Wie gibt es da Möglichkeiten, die sich gemeinsam als Kräfte nutzen lässt? Natürlich lässt sich die Situation nicht vergleichen zwischen Iran und Schweiz, aber dass es doch noch mehr feministische Kräfte, bis auch in andere Geschlechter von Menschen, in diese Bewegung, in diesen Widerstand reinzubringen. Also wir in der Schweiz, wie kriegen wir mehr PolitikerInnen, wie können wir die gewinnen, und wie siehst du das im Iran? Gibt es da bereits auch Entwicklungen, wo du auch eine Kraft drin siehst, den Widerstand zu stärken? Danke.
Gut, dann schlage ich vor, wir sammeln 2 weitere Wortmeldungen, bevor wir dann zu den Antworten kommen, und dann schauen wir dann weiter mit der Zeit. Wer möchte noch? Man kann auch Fragen stellen, Verständnisfragen oder Diskussionsanregungen.
Ja, meine Frage ist auf Bezug auf deine Aussage, dass wir nach der Revolution kehren können sollen. Und meine Frage ist, sollte eine feministische Revolution nicht also antipatriarchale Strukturen schon innerhalb der Revolution haben und sollte nicht Care und füreinander da sein auch Teil der Revolution sein?
Gut, dann schauen wir, ob wir noch ein drittes Votum haben oder ob wir das direkt wieder auf die Bühne nehmen.
Ich möchte etwas zu dieser Diskussionsfrage, die du vorher gesagt hast, sagen. Und zwar bin ich der Meinung, dass es sicher etwas dazu tun hat, dass es eben nicht um Amerika geht, wo wir, also das zu kritisieren ist in diesem Fall, aber auch sicher, dass es eine andere Religion also im Spiel ist, die man dann nicht versucht zu kritisieren, und das ist sicher auch meiner Meinung nach ein Grund, dass man sich ein bisschen raushält, was sicher auch Gründe hat, aber es verhindert uns auch aktiv etwas dagegen zu machen.
Danke vielmals für eure Nachfragen und Inputs. Dann auf was möchtest du zuerst antworten? Which one you want to answer first?
I need to hear the second question more, but I can just go with the third one. I totally see the point that you're saying, and that is again for me. It comes from this distancing and not wanting to hear in some specific words. In the beginning of the revolution, I had to argue with so many people that women of Iran are burning their mandatory veiling. It is very different than a burning veil, and if they want to burn a veil, which is even, it's not mandatory, this is their body and this is their choice. I sometimes think that maybe we have to go back to the origins of the critical thoughts that we have. Sorry. For me, feminism always starts and exists until we believe that everybody has their rights to their bodies. And when we see that they are uprising to gain this right to their bodies back, we should see this. Some specific terms coming from being politically correct, they act as a blockage here. Islamophobia, thinking that whatever is happening in this region, thought to be Muslim majority, criticizing anything there is assumed to be criticizing Islam. I was also receiving some angry comments from some of the sisters in who identify themselves as Muslim, and my comment was that first let me explain to you what is the situation of Islam in Iran, and second, talking in the arena of left, I believe in that left that is against any institution which stands itself in oppression. I don't care what is the name of that institution. Any institution building itself by exercising power and making it especially a mandatory, I have no respect for that institution, whatever it is. So the case in Iran is that it is mandatory, it is punished. I had to wear my veil from the age of 7, and I was also arrested with this morality police. And it's just not being arrested or killed, it's just that your dignity as a person is denied every day. And again, it's not only about dignity, it is also about so many opportunities being close to your face because you are not proper veiled. So this is the case, and this is the reason that people are uprising. And I also think that even just a bit reading closely why people are uprising and the death of Zhina, I believe that for who wants to hear this out, the death of Zhina talks loudly. She was murdered just because of not wearing her veil in a pleasant way to the regime. I think it is enough, this sentence is enough, that you can be murdered by not treating your body as the regime wants to treat your body. Any other body than male body in Iran and in the regimes like that are recognized to be the territory of the power and regime, power. They cannot be treated or dressed in a way that they don't want to. And I believe this has nothing to do with religion and with Islam. As I said, if we understand Islamic Republic as a dictatorship, so many difficulties can be solved. Because you also know that they are also using a religion exactly in a way that they are using anti-imperialism. There is no difference. One result of misusing even religion, I'm commenting on this and knowing how my mother is also these days hating Islam, and my mother, 72 years old woman, is a very strict Muslim for herself. But the point is that I think no other regime in the whole history can manage to make this many secular people on theirs because of the same thing, because of using religion, because of using left ideas in their opposite way as a tools of oppression. And again, these are the whole points are the reason that I'm just saying that we should be more political than being politically correct. Being politically correct is political, but if we are not radically political, then it starts to follow the patterns of neoliberalism, the patterns of capitalism. What is capitalism? Against that, appropriating what you want and leaving the rest, which are not useful. What is capitalism then? Appropriating anything that has a use and closing your eyes to the other. If the being politically correct is also following the same routes, then we have to fuck being politically correct and being radically politic, hearing the voices that being politically correct is blocking them. That's one point. With the question of how to involve bourgeois women, I'm just like thinking it's a very, let me reframe this question. I just want to say that I see feminism in a way that bell hooks understand it, that feminism must be for everyone. And feminism is an everyday practice. Regarding that, again, I'm just saying this is a very difficult question, and I'm also like sometimes thinking that why even bourgeois women want to be involved in it, because not necessarily bourgeois, but with some specific class, some specific schools of thought, it's even sometimes better if they don't be involved, just for them to live in their happy, fancy lives and just don't bother us. But the point is that, at least in Iran, right now, this revolution, of course, the roots are coming from working class. Of course, the roots are coming from Kurdish community, but it is not restricted to these classes. And that is the reason that we are saying that this is a feminist uprising, but this is also an extraordinary feminist uprising because it is not excluding men, it is also involving men in it. It is not excluding itself to specific demands of a specific class or specific kinds of ideology, but is including everybody in it. Because the final aim of everybody is to stand against the dictatorship. And also it is coming from this this inherited knowledge, embodiment knowledge of almost everybody in the country, that any school of ideology, if it's not serving for your true freedom, you should pass over it. And if you have to unite, to pass over this, you will unite. It happens, I'm also very shocked, it happens just on the street, because your enemy is defined, and your enemy is everybody's enemy. And you have historically been hurt and oppressed by that enemy, and that enemy has taught you very well, better than so many books and so many theorists, that ideology will not save you. If there is a school of thought that is not working at this moment of this year, of this world, you have to walk through that. If there is a box of thinking that is not working for you, you have to work through that, because the lives of people matter. This is what is making this revolution happen. Truly believing, radically believing that every life matters and every life deserves to have a totally free life. Yeah, so again, I cannot really give a very easy answer that how can we involve bourgeois women. I can just instead say that they will, maybe our task, better than trying to involve them, is involving each other with each other, especially with like different groups of left. I think that putting our effort and force to finding a common language with the one who are already involved in feminist struggles, and being more powerful and raising our voices together is maybe a better option, and also a practical option, an option that can be reached, having these discussions more and more among us. And because I also see that like there are so many feminist collectives all around the world, there are so many topics, and I am also one of those people who I'm criticizing. I'm also always having, no, this topic I don't know, I won't work this, I don't talk that, I also have that. But sometimes if we want to make actions, we have to, for a while, put these small disagreements aside and come together and see, come to a big crowd and shout together.
Vielen herzlichen Dank, Nilofar. Ich würde den Workshop hier jetzt schließen, und ich möchte mich zuerst ganz herzlich bedanken bei dir, Nilofar, dass du hier warst, dass du deine Gedanken, deine Geschichten und deine Einblicke mit uns geteilt hast, dein Wissen, dein Aktivismus. Danke auch dem Publikum ganz herzlich für eure Zeit und eure Diskussionsbeiträge, und sehr wichtig, ich möchte mich wirklich auch nochmals bedanken bei den Übersetzerinnen, die eine wahnsinnige Arbeit leisten. Wie auch den Kinderbetreuerinnen, die es ermöglichen, dass wir das so hier durchführen können. Vielen herzlichen Dank. Ich persönlich nehme wahnsinnig viel mit, das man jetzt nicht zusammenfassen kann, aber ich glaube, etwas, was mir geblieben ist, etwas ganz Zentrales, ist, dass Menschen im Iran und auch anderswo, aber vor allem auch im Iran, gehen momentan auf die Straße und sie sterben dort, oder sie haben die Aussicht, dort zu sterben. Und du hast vorhin gesagt, die Frage ist nicht, ob es Schwierigkeiten gibt, das System zu ändern, sondern die Frage ist, ob wir es wollen. Und das treibt diese Menschen trotz brutalsten Ermordungen, treibt sie auf die Straßen und sie kämpfen dort, und das gibt eine wahnsinnige Kraft, die wir hier nutzen können und mit der wir uns hier fragen können, was ist die Rolle von uns hier als Aktivistinnen, wie können wir den Menschen zuhören, die am wenigsten gehört werden, die am wenigsten gehört wurden, wieso sind deren Kämpfe auch unsere Kämpfe und wie können wir trotz Angst vor Fehlern, wie können wir in einer Fehlerkultur, eine Fehlerkultur etablieren und uns dort auch einen Handlungsspielraum schaffen und Druck ausüben auf die Regierung, auf den Schweizer Finanzplatz, in unseren Straßen und in den Medien. Ich nehme sehr viel mehr mit. Entschuldigung für die Aussprache, falls es falsch ist, aber Shin, Xian, Azadi, San, Sendegi, Azadi. Und genau, und jetzt organisatorisch, wir haben, glaube ich, die Spendenboxen schon rumgegeben, ich möchte es nochmals erwähnen, das wäre toll, wenn ihr euch in einem euch möglichen Rahmen mit einem Soli-Beitrag bemühen würdet, würden wir uns wahnsinnig freuen. Und weiter geht es heute um 14:30 Uhr mit 4 Workshops zum ukrainischen Widerstand gegen Krieg und Neoliberalismus hier im Weißen Saal. Offensiver Gewerkschaftspolitik und Kämpfen gegen die Energiekrise im Grünen Saal, der Vergesellschaftung von Energieversorgung im Zimmer 24 und dem Ausstieg der extremen Rechten und dem antifaschistischen Widerstand in Europa im Zimmer 22. Falls ihr Nilüfer nochmals hören wollt, sie spricht nochmals heute Abend im Plenum um 18 Uhr, das auch wieder hier stattfindet, zusammen mit Michael Hild, Tatjana Söding, Marc Ackermann, zum Thema für einen internationalen Antifaschismus. Und einfach, dass ihr es auch schon mal gehört habt, heute Abend gibt es auch noch eine Soli-Party im Profitreff um 9. Vielen Dank, dass ihr hier seid. Thank you very much.